Good morning, it's Eric with His&Hers HHQ. Welcome to another out of the box build. At the moment we're going to do a review. I know in the previous video I discussed doing a helicopter, and that's what I'm going to do. I had a choice, a copper chopper Sea King or an SH-3 Sea King Navy build. I looked at the decals for the copper chopper, and as a model builder, I'm going to say ew, because they are heavily yellowed, and even if I took 2, 3, 4 weeks, put them in a window and let them sun bleach, get back to newer quality, the decals look like they would absolutely disintegrate the moment they touched water. So that's going to take some time finding some aftermarket decals. Maybe I'll send them off to STS scale model decals so he knows what he's looking at and working with, and I can get him to do an exact sheet of that, just brand new decals. But until then, I'm going to go with the SH-3 Sea King. Now, I reviewed both kits. Personally, I went through both kits last night. That's how I know what the decals look like in the copper chopper. I looked at the decals on this, and just picture, this was a sealed kit. It still had the plastic on it. And I opened it up thinking I'm going to find a still basically brand new decal sheet, and initially that was my first thought. But if you look at this, I don't know how well you can see it, but you see that yellowing? That is horrible. I mean, it's not bad. It could be much worse, much like the copper chopper, but that's horrible. The star and bars and the danger intake triangles, or triangles, are a little yellowed, and the stuff in the decal film in between the lettering and the numbers, the outlines, are yellowed, and it's kind of disgusting. But I'm going to go ahead and, well, I've preached it, you work with what you have. So we're going to do an out-of-the-box build for this Sea King. I was considering another option, because I was considering maybe trying to put these in the window, give it a week or two and see if it bleaches that. But I said, no, I preach build what you can with what you have to work with, and just keep improving yourself. Whether you're new to the hobby or you're returning after many years, much like I did and much like a lot of modelers have. But I decided I'm going to go ahead and just build it out of the box, work with what I have, because, you know, practice what you preach. You talk about honesty and integrity, you better be an honest person with a lot of integrity. So, you know, I talk about work with what you have. In this case, building out of the box, you do what you can with what you have. I'm going to practice what I preach. So we're going with the helicopter. When I saw the yellow decals, initially my first thought was I'm going to not build the helicopter, like I said. And it came down to, I was considering doing the long tom, the 155 millimeter howitzer here. And a prime mover for it, both of which 1/72 scale. These would be much easier to do out of the box. It wouldn't matter that the long toms decals are yellow, are slightly yellowed, and the decals for this truck are mint. Airfix tends to produce really fantastic kits. Hasegawa produces phenomenal detail in their kits, but for whatever reason the decal sheet in this one, and this is an older kit, they're just absolutely horrible. I can't explain it. There's no date on it. I'm not sure when this one was manufactured. Doesn't look like there's information here on the sheet either. All right, well, anyway, this is obviously an older kit, but anyway, so I was considering doing these two as a substitute for an out-of-the-box build. But I did cover that my granddaughter just discovered helicopters in the one air show video, and she just absolutely loved the helicopters. When I looked at my shelf, no built helicopters. So I'm going to do this. It's going to be a straight out of the box build. Helicopter. SH-3 Sea King. We just looked at the, oh, well, let's see here. We just looked at the decals, and I think I just covered that the directions here are pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We'll look at the parts real quick. As you can see, the clear pieces, the molding for these clear pieces is just, I mean, just disgusting. Unfortunately, I don't have all the necessary sanding sticks or sandpaper and buff compounds to fix this, but these points here that actually help it mount to the fuselage, keep it aligned, have left these god-awful bits. But you know what? It's going to be an out-of-the-box build, so that's what we're looking at. Whether it looks horrible, the window looks horrible, it's whatever. We're going to make this look as good as possible, understanding that the molding process may not be the best. As you can see, the rotor blades, main rotor blades, are mounted or manufactured flat, really stiff. But if you look at an actual helicopter, they have a slight sag to them because of all the weight out here. So they have a slight sag to them. And we will attempt to recreate that sag. There's a hot water trick. You get it near boiling, not quite to boiling, but you get it near boiling, and then set it aside in a big old bowl. Dip the blade in it, and then just prop the blade over it with the hub end of the blade secured to something, so that the outer portion of it, the weight will pull it down just a little bit between the steam and the plastic being hot. So we're going to attempt to recreate that. These here, obviously, the sonar buoys. You don't have to add these to a kit, but we're doing it straight out of the box, so we're going to make sure everything is added. Your landing gear, struts, the wheels, the rotor hub assembly here, the sponsons, I do believe, that actually hold the main gear, the tail wheel, This is the flight stick for the pilot. We have pilot and co-pilot here. I think what we're not going to add the pilot and co-pilot, but we're going to do up the cockpit because it's not going to be in flight, so we're not going to worry about those guys. All right, the rear tail rotor, the pilot co-pilot seats, rear aileron. I'll be daggum. The flight console here has a little bit of detail here, a little bit of raised detail, but nothing up here that should be. And there's no decal for that, which is fine. We're doing this out of the box. Your intake. And your fuselage halves. Now, mind you, again, this is a Lindberg kit. So I do normally like Lindberg, but there's usually a lot of cleanup or a lot of correction to do. And in this case, even though it's going to be an out of the box, we do have a bit of cleanup that we're going to do. We cannot just let this, well, we can't let that fly because it will ruin, well, like you see this here. It'll just ruin fit, and it just won't seem to work right. But otherwise, this is the fuselage halves. You can see the Sea King was actually a fairly decent sized helicopter considering. Just imagine how big my hands are. And so you get a sense of how big this helicopter actually is. And this is 1/72nd scale, so which is my primary scale, my personal primary scale for everything aircraft. I will build 1/48 scale, which is bigger, or even something. I have seen aircraft kits in 1/35th scale. There's a couple of them. 1/32nd scale, 1/24th scale, and there's actually, I think it's 1/18th or 1/16th scale. Those are really big aircraft, or models. I think there was a 1/12th scale, but it was a World War I type aircraft, like a Sopwith Camel or the Fear German, the Red Baron type triplane. But otherwise, yeah, so these are various scales. My personal favorite is 1/72nd scale, and because they can be richly detailed, yet small enough not to take up a whole lot of shelf space. As long as you're not building something like some of my aircraft, a C-130. I have two KC-135 strato tankers. I'm going to convert one into the AWACS. I may just keep it U.S. Air Force, but I'm thinking of the NATO OTAN, where I can get special decals for that. It's basically a command and control aircraft. Anyway, I've got the Laser Lab slash something else. It's another C-135. Those are big aircraft. The B-36 is actually the biggest one I have. It's wingtip to wingtip. The completed model will be like 3 feet, 3.5 feet. It's a big kit. That's not necessarily shelf friendly, but you get the point. Most of the 1/72nd scales are shelf friendly, like that F-16 I did the very first build. I have an F-105 up there, and I've got a Hawker Hurricane from World War II, British fighter. Plus, of course, the C-47. So I have a lot of shelf-friendly aircraft. You can pull a lot of detail, or create a lot of detail, create a lot of realism in a scale that is shelf-friendly. Unless you've got a big home with big shelves, then you can do 1/48 scale and have far more detail. But, you know, I digress. Here we are going to do the SH-3 Sea King. We're going to do it out of the box. This has been a review. This is Sunday's video. Wednesday's video will be at least the beginning of the build process, if not a complete build. Because the way you do something like this is you build and paint the interior, the cockpit and whatnot, and then assemble the thing, assemble the fuselage halves, and then because you have to do, the clear pieces are inserted from the inside, so you make sure you have everything masked off. Then you paint it all after it's assembled, so you get a more even, uniform paint job all the way around the aircraft. And you also have the opportunity to clean up seam lines and whatnot. The magic of the Tamiya extra thin cement and my sprue goo, I should be able to hide most of the seam without doing a whole lot of work and losing all that raised detail. Because again, out of the box, going to make it look as good as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. So, I'm Eric with His&Hers HHQ on YouTube. You can head on over to Facebook and follow us at His&Hers Hobby Headquarters. And if you find this fun or entertaining or even informative, take some time, like the video. Feel free to comment. I will attempt to reply back or comment back. If you have any further questions or anything like that, you can DM me, preferably on the Facebook page, and I will attempt to answer as timely as possible. But again, like, subscribe, share the content, and let's keep the art hobby of scale model building alive. Have a good day.